Okay, we have a few iPads here that we need to work on. Two of them came by mail and one of them came to the shop here. We're gonna start with this one here, iPad Pro 9.7 inch. And this one is coming from Chad, Tennessee. I think it's the same problem you demonstrated and fixed in this YouTube video. iPad Pro 9.7, no backlight after screen replacement, repair without board diagram. Please ship to this address, so on and so forth. All right, so let's take a look at the iPad to see what's going on. It's obvious the customer changed the screen on this iPad. There's a brand new screen here. If I try to power it on, I have not looked at this iPad yet, and I do not see anything on the screen. We do not know if the battery is charged or not, but let's go ahead and plug it. We're gonna plug the charging cable. I'm looking at the amp meter and it's showing 0.61 amps being drawn, but there's nothing on the screen. It's totally black. No backlight, no half backlight, no spots, nothing. Black screen. Okay, so I'm gonna take this apart. We're gonna inspect the circuit board to see if we see anything obvious. Usually on the iPad Pros, or any iPad for that matter, it's usually filters or diodes. Could also be the coil. As you know, we do not have any circuit diagrams for those iPads. Okay, the reason we're not getting any display is because the screen is disconnected. Great. I know the screen was not sealed, but I thought it would be connected. Let's put that screen. Before we put the screen on, we have to disconnect the battery. Or since the backlight is already blown, it doesn't make sense to disconnect it anymore, but let's do it anyway. Okay, so let's quickly disconnect the battery. Like so. We're gonna install the screen. Okay, so all three connections are good. I'm not too happy about this connector. Maybe if we bend it inwards like a U shape, not a U shape, but close, the connector will make a better connection. Okay, let's try to power it on now. Nothing. Plug the cable. So step number one is to diagnose the problem, to know what's going on. Nothing. All right. We're gonna disconnect the battery again. Let's go over to the microscope and start checking. Right over here, and look at that. Look at that. I do see a blown filter here, and that's probably what's causing the problem. We'll go ahead and replace it. I do see one here also. We're gonna test to see if this is good, and if this is good. So it was obvious right off the bat. I want to check this area here. Check those diodes and see if we get the proper reading. So meter in diode mode. What do we get? 0.144, 0.144, perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and replace those filters and we should be good to go. Before I replace them, let me test and make sure they are blown. Meter in continuity mode. Blown and blown. Very good. Let's start by removing those filters. I've been getting a lot of questions about the microscope that we use. How can we work with a 2D microscope? We do not shove our eyes in a microscope and do our work. We just look at the screen. Personally, I'm used to working that way. You may not be used to it. A lot of people who use a stereo microscope are not used to working on the screen like this, like I do. I've been working on the microscope by looking at the screen for the past 8-9 years. I'm used to it. I can put my tweezers right on the component without even having to look at the board. With the stereo microscope, you're not looking at a 2D image. You can tell if you are close to the board or if you are far from the board. Working with a stereo microscope is like working with your eyes, but you have a closer view. To me, it's not a problem because I'm used to it. I mean, look at this. I can go straight to the component without even having to look at the board. I can go straight to the component here and take it out. To me personally, I do not like to work with a stereo microscope. I do not like to have my eyes shoved into a microscope all day long. It's gonna put strain on my neck, strain on my back. My eyes may hurt. I do not want that. I just sit back, relaxed, and I'll just work. I can see my surrounding. I can talk to the other guy working in here. I can do whatever, answer a phone call while I'm still watching the screen here. So to me, this is the best possible option. And the clarity that you get on this microscope, it's very, very hard to beat, even on the best stereo microscope in the market. For those of you who inquired about the difference or if they should buy a stereo microscope or a microscope like this, it's up to you. If you feel comfortable working with a stereo microscope and you do not mind staring at an eyepiece all day long, then by all means go and buy it. It will give you a better field of view, like if your hand is close to the board, far from the board. Okay, the guy has an iPhone that boot loops, and he thinks because his memory is low, the phone is boot looping. He wants his data. He went to Apple, and Apple were not able to help him out. And he's telling me, I'm sure it's an easy fix to be able to get the data from a phone that boot loops. And the phone is new. So I told him how much it's gonna cost. $45 if we cannot get the data because we're gonna spend time working on it. Or $195 if we are able to get data. We do not want to spend time working on the phone when the customer does not appreciate the work being put into that phone. It could be a lot of things. Let's go ahead and remove the two filters here. Turn on fume extractor. And let's remove that one. And we're gonna use our awesome new weller tip. It's a conical bend tip we bought maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago. I've been using it a lot. Very, very nice tip. This one is a chisel bend tip. It's a slightly bigger tip, but sometimes I need a thinner tip. So this one is like maybe 1/3 the size. Both of them are bend tips. And this one has a longer reach. Very useful in a lot of areas of fixing a board. Let's put our spotlight on so we can get rid of the glare. And that's something I've been doing for a long time. And it's the best way to get rid of the glare. Like this. Very good. Look at how tight this area is, but the tip is able to make it. So I have some donor boards here. We're gonna get the filter off a donor board. Let me just test to make sure this filter is good. This filter is good. We can just give it a little touch up on the sides. Okay, so this is good, and let me zoom out a bit. Let's test the continuity between right there. Very good. So we're gonna clean up this area, and we'll do the other one, and we should have a working backlight after this is done. So we want to get the same size filter. Let's look at our donor board and grab a similar one. And I see one right over here. We'll clean up and do a quick test to make sure we have a continuous path between one end of the filter and the FPC connector. So from here to right over here. Very good. Okay, so we're assuming it's a backlight issue like the customer said. Nothing. See if anything changes. Okay, I'm not getting anything on the screen. Charging rate is 0.12. That's very low. I think we're gonna change the battery on the iPad just to see if the iPad is functional, because right now I'm not getting anything on the screen and the charging rate on the battery is very low, 0.12. We're gonna go ahead and try another battery and we'll see. Okay, Big Boss changed the battery and now the charging rate is 1.1 amps. So this is the customer's battery here, and we still do not have an image on the screen. But if we look at the thermal cam now, we do see that the CPU is on. So the tablet did power on the new battery that we put. And why is there no image on the screen? That's a good question. I'm thinking we should try a new screen. We should try our screen and see if that makes a difference. The other thing I'm thinking of is maybe we should check the FEC connectors again to make sure there's nothing obvious there. I focused on the filters and did not look at anything else, so maybe we should do that. Right now, we still do not have anything on the screen, but two things changed. The charging rate is 1.1 amps now. That could be because maybe the battery is drained, or that could change. But the other thing is the thermal cam shows that the CPU is on now. Let's take a look at the FEC connectors of the screen itself, and then we'll do the same for the FEC connectors on the board. Look at this. We are missing that ground bracket here, which looks something like this. It's missing from here and it's missing from here. Those two pins, they have something over them. Probably the plastic melted from heat and it wrapped around the pins. We do not know if this or this pin is wrapping around and making a connection with the wires that goes through the Flux cable. And where's the third cable? Look at the third cable. Look at this. Just came right off. Same problem with this. Let's check the FEC connector on the tablet. Make sure there's no damage there. And I do see a slight damage on the connector. damage on the FEC connector. So that could be our problem right there, because we did fix the backlight problem. It was obvious that we had two blown filters, but look at this. If that FEC connector is not making a good connection with the screen, we're not going to have any display on the screen. The fact that the CPU turned on under the thermal cam, it tells me that the tablet is working. What about this FEC connector here? That looks good. I do not see anything obvious. We should have a screen that we can try. I do not know if the one that we have is a 9.7 or 10.5 inch. Big Boss is checking. Right, so we do have another 9.7 inch iPad Pro screen here. We're gonna try our screen and we'll see. Okay, the first connector doesn't look like it's fitting in properly. That could be because the FEC connector on the board is damaged and we may have to change it. I do not know if that's gonna work. Let's see. Oh, right there. Worked. It worked. We do see the display. Tablet needs to be charged. Right there. Okay. Now what I want to do is try the customer's display again after we did the cleanup on the FEC connectors on the screen. Hopefully that will work, because it will save the customer from having to buy another LCD display. So let me unplug our screen. Okay, hopefully the customer's screen will work. And it's not working. Customer screen is not working. Too bad. Tablet is fixed, but the screen is faulty. Customer has two options. He can either buy the screen from us, we can install it for him and send him a working tablet. He does not need to do anything else. Or he can buy his own screen and try to install his own screen again. But by doing so, he may damage the screen again, or he may damage the FEC connector, which is partially damaged, but it's functional now. Or he may even damage the backlight circuit again. It's up to the customer. Our job is done. I'm gonna contact the customer. I'm gonna let him know what the problem is, and just a moment. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you have any questions, and we'll do something else in the next video.